Hi, welcome friends. Today my topic of discussion is the essay Freedom by G.B. Shaw. Let's start with some key facts about this essay. Fact number 1. George Bernard Shaw's Freedom actually belongs to one of the series of radio talks, a lecture, delivered by him on 18 June in 1935 on the BBC. Fact number 2. Genre, essay, a non-fiction, a philosophical discourse on freedom. 3. The lecture seems to be free from theoretical jargons. But Shaw can be very much deceptive in what he says. 4. Behind his humor lies the satire of the contemporary social condition. 5. His talk was actually a denunciation of the conventional and capitalist view of freedom. 6. Politically, Shaw conformed to democratic socialism, a variant of Marxism, according to which the society should try to reach the socialist political condition gradually, by the democratic means. 7. Perfectly free person to Shaw is evidently a person who can do what he likes, when he likes, and where he likes, or do nothing at all, if he prefers it. 8. Concepts of freedom is presented in 3 concepts of difference. A. Upper class freedom versus lower class freedom. B. Natural slavery versus man-to-man slavery. C. Real freedom versus fake freedom. Now, let's see the theme. In the topic, freedom, the writer pleads for an original and stimulating attitude towards the concept of freedom, individual, social and political. Shaw skillfully analyzes the difference between the natural slavery of man to nature and the unnatural slavery of man to man. Beginning line is, what is a perfectly free person? Ending lines are, I will, therefore, leave you with a conundrum to think over. If you had your choice, would you work for 8 hours a day and retire with a full pension at 45? Or would you rather work 4 hours a day and keep on working until you are 70? Now don't send the answer to me, please talk it over with your wife. Now, let's see the summary of freedom. In the essay, Freedom, George Bernard Shaw makes a plea for a right type of individual social and political freedom. G.B. Shaw is of the view that no one can be perfectly free. There are certain natural jobs that cannot be avoided. Man has to eat and drink. Therefore, he must produce food. He has to sleep. So, he must have beds and bedding. He must have clothes to cover his nakedness. So, man has to work hard to get food, shelter and clothes. The concept of freedom, which Shaw satirizes, was the fundamental principle of enlightenment, and he does so because in a capitalist society, according to the Marxian view, freedom of the individual can never be realized. Shaw begins the essay with the proposition that a person can be called completely free in such a condition in which he will be able to do what he likes, when he likes, and where he likes, or do nothing at all if he prefers it. Shaw firmly denies the possibility of the existence of such a person, as human beings are all slaves to nature. As he writes, we must all sleep for 1/3 of our lifetime, wash and dress and undress, we must spend a couple of hours eating and drinking, we must spend nearly as much in getting about, from one place to place. From this funny yet inexorable condition of human life, Shaw very cleverly moves on to the fact that some of the natural jobs can be placed on others' shoulders. He writes, "What you do to a horse or a bee, you can do to a man or woman or child." According to George Bernard Shaw, the absolute freedom means doing what one likes, when he likes and where he likes. There can never be absolute freedom because, whether we like it or not, we must sleep, eat, drink, wash and dress. We are expected to live and behave in a certain way, otherwise society will reject us. We cannot live in isolation. We are slaves to necessities. Though we cannot avoid these natural jobs, we can avoid work, which goes with them. We can get food and home and clothes from others. We can make others do most of the work for us. With this, Shaw comes to the immediate social and political condition of the time, in which the concept of freedom derived from the grand idealistic project of the Enlightenment and nationalistic bias, produced by the First World War, was being glorified and used by the upper class as a means to achieving their self-interests. According to Shaw, the farce of the democratic system, in a capitalist state, lies in the fact that most actual governments enforce your slavery and call it freedom. But the citizens of the state continue to be duped by the system instead of rising to protest. Shaw terms this unequal relationship as the unnatural slavery of man to man. The government enforces slavery and calls it freedom. An ordinary man's freedom is limited to choosing between one master and another. It is government-regulated slavery. We are supposed to govern ourselves with a vote. But it does not change our status or reduce our work. We are fooled into believing that we are free. Shaw points out an important difference between the natural slavery of man to nature and the unnatural slavery of man to man. According to him, the first, though unavoidable, provides pleasure after its fulfillment. For instance, if nature forces us to drink, she makes drinking pleasant. The same is true of eating, drinking, sleeping and other activities. Shaw introduces this difference and cites examples more importantly, to explain the evils of the former, in more acute terms. There are two types of slavery. 1. The natural slavery of man to nature, and 2. The unnatural slavery of man to man. Nature forces us to eat, sleep, drink and set up a family. This natural slavery is pleasant and essential. But the slavery of man to man is hateful to the spirit. No man is good enough to be another man's master. It leads to the class war. For a peaceful and stable society, abolition of slavery is essential. Everyone must do his share of work. The master class, through its parliaments and schools and newspapers, prevents common people from realizing their slavery. When people grumble, they are told that all their miseries are of their own doing, because they have the vote to elect their government. They are told that the rich are taxed, but not how much the poor have to work. Those who protest against such imposture is called evil people, antisocial elements. Everything is done to retain the slave order. All this is meant to deceive the common people. The master class is also deluded. All are deceived by falsified history. Gentlemen are taught snobbery in their schools. A gentleman is taught that he is superior to others who should work for him. He believes that the system, which has put him in such a comfortable position, is the best one and whatever it says is right. So the slavery to man is perpetuated methodically. Shaw refers to few thinkers, like Karl Marx and Thomas More, who denounced this slavery and tried to abolish it. At this point, his explanation of the capitalist mechanism, that is, the means by which the system tries to dupe people and establish, legitimize and perpetuate itself. Shaw strikes at the very root when he says, naturally the master class, through its parliaments and schools and newspapers, makes the most desperate efforts to prevent us from realizing our slavery. He explains, historically, how the British capitalist system has established itself, by propagating the so-called glorious events as the Magna Carta, the defeat of the Spanish Armada, and Napoleon. Shaw explains the difference between two kinds of slavery, and conclusively tells the listeners or readers, he writes, wipe out from your dreams of freedom, the hope of being able to do as you please, all the time. According to Shaw, people have to remain occupied doing the natural slavery, for at least 12 hours a day, while their unnatural slavery is controlled and regulated by the legal and administrative system of the country. He explains how ideological apparatuses, to quote Althusser, manipulate the common mass to cast votes in favor of the capitalist leaders. Aristotle held that the law and order and government would be impossible unless the persons or the people have to obey dutifully. This means that they must be made very rich to produce an impression of godlike superiority. So, the master class is an artificial creation for convenience. In short, you must make men ignorant idolaters, to make them obedient workers. The common people themselves do not vote for the members of their own class. When women were enfranchised, they defeated the women who stood for workers, and elected a titled lady of great wealth. This servility is the product of the manipulated education system. What is more alarmingly effective is the educational system, which operates in the superstructure, and ends in deluding the master class much more completely. Absolute freedom is impossible, since we have to obey nature and work to earn a living. Even during our free time, nature interferes. A man is at the mercy of his employer and the landlord. Yet a lot of freedom or leisure is not good, either for man or for society in general. An idle man's mind is devil's workshop. If we have a lot of wealth, we may lose both health and happiness. Some restriction is necessary for the health of society, and some work is necessary for the health of human beings. One can enjoy real freedom, if one has leisure and money. Therefore, the common man must stand up to claim these two elements of freedom. Such a candidate should not be voted into power, who talks of freedom but lives by exploiting others. Those who fail in this respect lose their health, happiness and even their lives. The common man has to decide whether he has to drudge himself or to live long freely by the right use of leisure.